Hey everyone, it's MARLA from Light and Liberty. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you're all doing well. Are you feeling stressed out or disturbed by American or world politics these days? Maybe you're worried about war or even live in an unstable area yourself. Do you feel discombobulated by the rapid changes? Did you vote against Donald Trump and now feel angry or anxious about what he's doing? Even if you voted for Trump and approve of what he's doing, it's a fact that timelines have accelerated and change is coming very rapidly, which can subconsciously create feelings of insecurity. Rapid change can cause us to wonder, where the heck are we going? Nothing is clear, and when I say nothing is clear, I mean nothing is as it appears on the surface. At this point, we just can't trust any information that comes from outside of ourselves. All information has an agenda that wants to shift our perspective one way or another. I'm not saying this to create fear, but to remind you that to be complacent now would be premature. So what do we do? How do we handle this accelerated change, and how might it be affecting you? I want to share a parable with you. This is one of my favorites, and it's commonly known as the Taoist farmer. Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer whose horse ran away. That evening, all of his neighbors came around to commiserate. They said, "We're so sorry to hear your horse has run away. This is most unfortunate." The farmer said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back, bringing 7 wild horses with it. And in the evening, everybody came back and said, "Oh, isn't that lucky? What a great turn of events. You now have 8 horses." The farmer again said, "Maybe." The next day, his son tried to break one of the horses, and while riding it, he was thrown and broke his leg. The neighbors then said, "Oh dear, that's too bad." And the farmer responded, "Maybe." The next day, the conscription officers came around to conscript people into the army, and they rejected his son because he had a broken leg. Again, all the neighbors came around and said, "Isn't that great?" Again, the farmer replied, "Maybe." How does this story pertain to world affairs? Every time a situation arises in the story, the farmer's neighbors make hasty judgments about it. They're only looking at the current moment and not taking into consideration the possibility of the future. Their emotions are controlled by their momentary perceptions. On the other hand, the farmer counters every situation with maybe. He's not making the same hasty judgments, which somewhat confounds the people around him, but each time the neighbors think they know whether a situation is good or bad, they're wrong because they don't see the next set of circumstances around the corner. Life is like that. We don't know what's going to happen next. And that's not the least of it, because if we don't know what's happening next, how will we know what effects the changes today will have on the country or the world 100 years from now, or 500 years from now? The parable is meant to remind us that our judgment comes from our ego. The ego really dislikes not knowing the future. That's understandable because our ego wants to keep us safe. But some things are out of our control. The current world shifts are out of our control. And if we can't surrender to that, then we allow our mind to step in with constant judgments. And the problem with that is, if you judge the situation as bad, you're likely to experience stress, anxiety, and anger that has no outlet. This will take a toll on your physical and mental health. But remember our story. We don't know the future, therefore we don't know the outcome. We might be creating a lot of stress over something that will never happen, because things might turn out for the positive even if they don't align with your beliefs in the now. All of our judgment comes from our perception of reality. When you can create the inner space to step back from all the hype being created through the media and Hollywood, it's quite interesting to consider the extremes in people's realities. There are 2 different worlds at the moment. Well, actually, there are billions of different realities because every person on earth has their own perception of reality. But collectively, In the Western world, we're being divided into two realities. Which reality is right? Trick question. Looking for which one is right is judgment, and it's too soon to have an accurate perception of how or why this division is happening and what the outcome will be. To say one side is right and the other wrong would be an oversimplified perception. Let's consider those that perceive what is happening now as good. This is also a judgment, and we don't want to be too hasty. What we can perceive now would be surface perception, and the judgment would be based simply on the now moment, with no consideration for the future. Things are not always what they seem, and if we view what's happening as good, that opens the door for us to become too complacent. Well, things are good, so there's no reason to pay attention. There's no reason to take personal action. Just trust them to do the right thing in every situation. Isn't that kind of what got us here in the first place? We were too trusting and not paying attention. We got complacent and couldn't be bothered to look into things deeper. Sure, in fairness, things have been purposely hidden from us, and we've been programmed to think this way. But that's all the more reason not to assume that there's no more work to be done. The things that are happening in the world are a combination of karmic circumstances and a wake-up call to humanity. We can't allow our consciousness to remain asleep anymore. Understand that premature judgments play into psychological manipulation. The media knows how to create certain judgments in your mind, and if you begin to create awareness through non-judgment, you'll begin to see it. For instance, they love to trigger racial programming and to get people to jump to conclusions and create a lot of anger. They often hold back information on purpose because they want people to jump to conclusions, and then that spreads so much false information that everything becomes incredibly muddled. They know what to say to make people feel emotional, which also leads people into snap judgments, and then the negative emotions create more distortions of truth. Social media intensifies it all. There's a lot of influencers and vloggers that aren't even aware that the content that they're creating is also heavily manipulating people's judgments. The catch-22 is that the more you are stuck in judgments of good or bad, the less likely you are to expand your perception of reality beyond this very limited point of view. The more you release judgment, the more points of view you can hold, because the moment you judge, you are putting up a roadblock to more possibilities, at least until a more solidified outcome happens. But here's the problem with that when it comes to the world stage. False information creates quick judgments that tend to remain even when true information comes out. That's how powerful our judgments are. They remain even in the faith of truth. Another problem is that we often aren't able to fully understand the implications of situations without hindsight, and sometimes that doesn't come for a very long time, so to make quick judgments might lead us in the wrong direction. So what do? We become the Taoist farmer. Instead of judging, we become an observer. That could be good, that could be bad. We don't get emotionally attached to all the ups and downs in the world. Remember this: judgment causes us to react with limited perception. Non-judgment gives us the space to observe in non-reaction, so we can find expanded perceptions. Rarely are things black and white. Most things are 1,000 shades of gray. Haste only perceives the black and the white. Reality is a collective experience. The best thing that you can do to make a positive contribution to the world's collective experience is to be positive in your own life. Don't get caught up in the drama and hype, but detach and wait for further information. Understand that in many cases, the truth will only be shown with hindsight. Trust that a higher power is in control, And know that these experiences are necessary for planetary growth and the evolution of human consciousness. Judgment can create unnecessary fear and anger over things that will never happen. Judgment can sabotage your happiness and replace it with worry that can't be resolved because you aren't in control. Negativity creates more negativity for yourself and others. So instead, spread positive energy. When you can remain positive and peaceful, you're affecting everyone around you. That's the kind of change that we need. Stop reacting to every headline and just observe. Get the popcorn, as the saying goes. Sit back and allow it to unfold. It's all out of our control right now, and we're just along for the ride. So let's reserve judgment until we have the clarity of hindsight. If you haven't subscribed to this channel already, I would love it if you would do it. I would also love it if you could give this video a thumbs up. And if you know someone this video would help, please share it so that I can get the word out about this channel. If you want more information about me, I'll link my website below. Otherwise, until next time, I'm sending you a lot of love, light, and liberty.